Good afternoon. Police have charged a 33-year-old man with murdering his own mother. Detectives believe a violent meeting between the pair led to her death in a Western Sydney park this week. The man is this afternoon behind bars as officers search for his mother's body, feared dumped west of the Blue Mountains.
It's been 4 days since Sandra Popovic was last seen alive here at a reserve in Winston Hills. Police say it was just after 5 p.m. on Monday when the 58-year-old woman arranged to meet her son, 33-year-old Ante Popovic. The pair, who were estranged, were allegedly meeting to discuss money. Moments after the mother and son arrive at the Dodson Street Park, police say Ms Popovic was bundled into her son's white ute. She hasn't been seen since.
We will allege that communications directed toward our missing lady were hostile in nature prior to that meeting. The fact that no one has been able to contact her or heard from her is significant for family and for investigators in terms of that.
Police believe the son drove towards the Blue Mountains and disposed of his mother's body that night. He then returned to his home south of Nowra. Popovic was arrested in bushland near Nowra yesterday and charged with his mother's murder. We'll have the full story for you tonight, including new details about the mother's final moments in our bulletin at 6 p.m.
One Nation's momentum is attracting support from all walks of life. Pauline Hanson receiving new billionaire backing, even as her public fundraiser hit a snag today. Let's go live to political editor Tim Lester in Canberra this afternoon. Hello to you, Tim. Now, Australia's richest person has made no secret of her support for the movement.
Yes, and Sally, in Perth last night, it really was a case of a display of the contradiction at the heart of One Nation, the country's newest political juggernaut. Pauline Hanson arrives for a function at mining billionaire Gina Rinehart's new headquarters. Rinehart, One Nation's biggest public backer, has already helped Hanson with a new private plane worth more than $1.5 million. Connections with the big end of town as the party runs a loud, contentious fundraiser aimed at ordinary Australians. The Fire the Liar drive, a jibe at Prime Minister Albanese's broken tax promises, apparently interrupted today as its website crashed, just as One Nation claimed proceeds were approaching $3 million.
None of us know for sure what amount of donations One Nation has received. There's no evidence that they've done that apart from what they're telling the media.
In fact, there is an audit of the fundraiser. One Nation says it paid for the independent cheque when opponents queried the campaign's claimed success. Labor would prefer the attention was not on how anger with the Prime Minister can drive fundraising.
The big story here is the renegotiation of the anti-Labor coalition, which for 80 years was the Liberal Party and the National Party, into a new coalition of 3 parties.
But from the Liberals, mixed messages on how far relations with Pauline Hanson's party might go.
Are you going to preference One Nation?
No, that's not on the cards. An election is now 18 months to 2 years away. To begin with, we never, ever talk about preferences before an election is actually called.
New Liberal President Tony Abbott seemed far more open to a deal with One Nation, and leader Angus Taylor has not, flatly ruled it out. The old parties still struggling to come to terms with the new kid on the block. Sally.
It seems that way. All right, thanks for that. Tim Lester in Canberra this afternoon. An elderly man and his passenger have been rescued from their sinking car after it plunged into a neighbour's pool. The crash caused tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage, falling back onto the uninsured driver. Sam Payne has the details.
Good afternoon. Well, an elderly man and woman are lucky to have escaped uninjured after driving through their neighbour's fence and into their pool here in Grays Point just before 7 last night. Now, what they were actually trying to do over here is where they live. They were accelerating and reversing back and forth, trying to park the car correctly, and instead of reversing up the slope, you can see on this CCTV, the driver, the 85-year-old man, has actually in fact put the foot on the accelerator accelerated quite fast, straight through into the pool, landing straight into the water. Now, these neighbours were home at the time. They've run out, they've found the couple in the car. It was filmed, the dramatic rescue as they were pulled from the vehicle. They did escape uninjured. We caught up with them this morning.
In this moment, he just went, ooh, and that was it. We're very lucky that we landed there in the pool, because otherwise we would land it perhaps somewhere over there.
Now, the damage bill is expected to be over $30,000, with issues with the cabana. There's a hole in the fence, the car, the pool has to be drained, and a crane has now been called to come. To make matters worse, that 85-year-old driver is uninsured. I'll have more details on this story in the news tonight at 6.
Thank you, Sam. The Australian share market has surged this afternoon, strengthened by news a US-Iran deal is close. US President Donald Trump calling off new strikes on Iran just hours before they were scheduled to launch. Marley Hogan's following the developments.
Donald Trump has claimed that a deal is within reach, but it is a claim we have heard from him time and time before, only for it to all fall apart. And still today, there is limited clarity about how the negotiations are progressing. Donald Trump started the day threatening to strike Iran for a third night. The US president even talked about potentially invading a strategic Iranian island. Then hours later, he changed his mind, suggesting an agreement had almost been reached. He was extremely optimistic, saying the deal could be signed as soon as this weekend, the Strait of Hormuz would then open, and that Iran's supreme leader had even approved the details.
We just made a great settlement of the war with Iran, and we're going to be subject to finalization of documents, which should get done over the next few days.
It's a different story from the other side. Iran's foreign minister saying that nothing has been finalised and they will not compromise on their red lines. For now, at least, it appears that those tit-for-tat attacks have stopped, but still, there is no deal.
To a major update on Australia's most wanted fugitive, James Dalamangas has been sentenced to 2 years and 9 months behind bars in Greece, but the sentence has been suspended pending an appeal. The 55-year-old was jailed over illegal weapon possession and lying during testimony. Greek authorities are still weighing up whether to extradite him back here over the 1999 murder of George Giannopoulos.